Let me pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your word, and thank you for all that it teaches us. And Father, we pray that as we look at that today, and as we seek to kind of understand a little bit better, Father, pray that you just be amongst us, teaching us. But Father, pray too that you'd be moving our hearts so that we understand more of you, more of your purpose, and more of how we can love and follow you. Our good shepherd. Amen. We're looking at this very short little bit of chapter 10 when it says, when Jesus says, the Lord is, I am the good shepherd. But really to understand why we need to get to this point, it's vital that we have a little bit of the flow of John's Gospel. We've been looking at individual pages, but might not necessarily understand. So, if we look at where we started, there was in chapter 8, there was the man born blind. And in this story, Jesus does this wonderful, wonderful healing. But the thing is that the Pharisees are slightly cross. Because if this guy is really, really healed, then Jesus must be a little bit about who he says he is. And so it's revealing who Jesus truly is. But the religious believers, particularly the Pharisees, and this section kind of from 8 to 10 is all about Jesus' dialogue with the Pharisees. They're blind. They don't see it. And therefore they refuse to acknowledge and see who Jesus is. And they refuse to acknowledge the miracle. And the upshot is that the man and his family are excluded from the community of God's people. And the man comes back, and you can see at the end of that chapter, the man comes back and wants to know who Jesus truly is. And then John helps us to understand by talking about who is truly blind in this story. Why were they so against Jesus, the Pharisees? They're the good guys of the time. Well, they've studied to get to their position. They've made sacrifices along the way. They've married into the right family so that they have the right connections to be able to do that. They've maintained respectability within the community. And it's taken them many, many years to get to this point where they are known as Pharisees. And they have a strong hold on religion. It's good for people. But people who live correctly, who are respected in society, who will maintain things as they are meant to be, the way God has put them there to maintain it. And then this Jesus comes along, and he's a bit too egalitarian. He speaks to the lepers, he speaks to all kinds of disreputable people. He speaks to people who are begging by the side of the road. He speaks to the immoral, he speaks to the tax collector. He's just way, way too egalitarian. He's way too common. Common in that sense of really not very good or not very nice. And he's certainly not one of the religious elite. And so these Pharisees, they go away, and this is what you can read in chapter 9, that they go away with a perfect plan. We'll find a woman of ill repute. There's clearly a woman of ill repute. And we'll set her up. And then we'll bring her to Jesus. And then we'll see whether he is the kind of guy that we need him to be, whether he will uphold our morality, or whether he will actually reach out to this woman. Because if he does, every self-respecting Jew here is going to see him and know that he's not for them, and they're going to turn their back on him. And so, the plan's hatched. She is called. She is brought to Jesus. But Jesus sees right into the heart of who they are in chapter 9. Because he's seen the religion of the Pharisees has become a religion of good works, of being good, of looking good, of making sure that you keep all the nice and good people together, but anybody else, too bad, we'll keep them away with lots of laws and lots of rituals and lots of reasons why they cannot come, and we will just keep religion for the good folk. Jesus sees it, so he challenges them. Are you really as good as you are pretending? The words, let he who is without sin throw the first stone. Are you really as good? The challenge to the Pharisees as you say you are, as you're telling everybody else you are. And see, deep down, the Pharisees, they do feel it. And so they walk away, because they know that they are sinners. And so Jesus then, in chapter 9, tells them the key thing that they need to know about who Jesus really is. That's why in chapter 9, he is the light of the world. And the light of the world, we've already explored that a couple of weeks ago, is not just about what Jesus sees, but how we are to live. Because he is that. His existence is what gives us life. Remember those words from the beginning of John's Gospel we talked about a couple of weeks ago, with him, in his light, we have life. And Jesus says to them, look, the point is that you're missing is that without the light of Christ in your life, you are not truly living. And so then he goes on to chapter 10 to try and explain to the Pharisees, it's still in dialogue with the Pharisees, still trying to get them to understand what true religion is all about. You remember last week Bess gave us those really two helpful images of the sheepfold in town and the sheepfield up in the hill. What's been the issue since chapter 8? Or even chapter 6? If you want to go back a little bit further, when Jesus talks, I am the bread of life, look at chapter 6 as well. Who is Jesus? Jesus is divine. It's the use of the I am. It's a reference also here back to what we're going to get to, which is Ezekiel 34, about the God who will be the king, who will come and be their shepherds and will protect them and all the rest. And so how does he go on about it in chapter 10? If you hear my voice and follow, you are a true believer. That is the nature of true belief and faith. It's a staggering claim that true belief is following Jesus, listening to him, and knowing his voice when he speaks and calls. That's the beginning of chapter 10. And the second illustration, it's about the nature of true religion and a religious community. Because can you see what the Pharisees have done? They've excluded this man who was blind and has been healed, and his family for not disowning him. They're trying to exclude this woman and say the life that you live is just unworthy, therefore you will forever be outside. There are laws and rules, and it's impossible to follow the 460 plus indications in the Talmud about how you could live. Why? Because they want this pen, this place of security for themselves. So actually what they're doing is they're keeping everybody out so that they can be within security of the walls up on that hillside. Pharisees are fine. We're great. We've got God. He's on our side. We're inside. But actually you guys, you're outside. And you'll be harassed and chased and eaten. If you're in any doubt as to what it's like when the wolves are around, just see the news in Belgium this week about the devastation that has happened when a wolf comes around some sheep. It happens even in Belgium. And then this was their view. We're okay. We'll be in here. You just have to make the best of it outside. What's the gate illustration for Jesus? He is the one who stands at that gate. Second half of chapter 10. We are safe inside. Isn't that an amazing picture of God? The one who stands between us and fear. As James writes in his letter, perfect love casts out all fear. He is the one who stands between us and death. Do you see the contrast? The Pharisees are trying to make religion for good people. It's about, if you're one of us, you can be inside, you can be safe. But actually Jesus says, no, but that's completely wrong. If the Pharisees will leave you out to die, Jesus has said, I will ensure that you live. Romans 10:10, I have come that you might have life. And referring to the earlier verses of that chapter, and a reference surely to Psalm 23, that you will live in life in its fullness, because I will lead you. And I will lead you beside still waters, I will lead you beside green pastures. Eternally, if you follow me, you will be secure. And he talks in chapter 8, and he prays it later. You know, he thanks God that actually he will never lose any that the Father gives him. Ultimate security. And what he says is, again, referencing those who come in, they climb into the sheep pen because they want to kill and destroy. That's the early part of chapter 10. Anything else but life with Jesus is a lie, he says. The thief comes only to kill and destroy. And so that's where we have got to. That's been how he has been dialoguing with the Pharisees up until this point. And it's worth saying that if you don't know Jesus, that if you haven't come to him as your Lord and Saviour, if you have not heard his voice, despite everything else that life might offer us, Jesus says, without me, there is no life. We need to be clear on that. And if you're not sure where you are, then just take some time today to stop and listen and think, do I know Jesus? Do I know his call on my life? Am I living for him or for anything else? But to quote Mary, when the angel visited her and talked about the wonderful thing that was going on, but how can this be? She said. She had her reasons, we've got ours. And you can see the Pharisees saying this, but hang on a second. God is a holy God. Deep down, they knew that they had sinned. They couldn't throw that first stone. They knew they fell short of God's glory. As Paul writes in Romans 1, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And so they're right to say, hang on, Jesus, we love the fact that you're really popular and you're really helping pick these people up, but how can you do that? How can you be who you are, claiming to be divine, and still spending time with such as these? How is Jesus going to square the circle? How is he going to bring fallen, sinful humanity into the presence of God. There's been hints throughout John's Gospel. You can look it up in chapter 2, the end of chapter 2, if you've got one there for the back. He said, I will destroy, when they were talking, when he was there, and they cleared out the temple, and they were really cross with him. He said, this is going to be a temple in my Father's house, as a house of prayer. A quote from Jeremiah and Zechariah, which talks about actually God's house will be for all the nations. That's why they were really annoyed then. What did Jesus say to them? Chapter 2. Destroy the temple. Destroy God's presence amongst you. Let's get away from religious language. Destroy God's presence amongst you, and I will restore it. I will raise it up in 3 days. That's hint number 1. John chapter 3, as he's talking to Nicodemus, and he's talking about how, God sent his Son. How does God love the world? This is how God loves the world, that he sent his Son. That whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. How can this be? All that question, how? Nicodemus asks Jesus. His answer, just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. John 6, I am the bread of life that comes down from heaven, Jesus says at the end of the chapter, I think it's verse 37. This bread is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world. He's been teaching them and helping them see what will need to happen and what's going to come. But before we go to that, let me just take a moment in 11 to 14, which is the focus here. Because sometimes it's really, really easy to miss this. But notice the intimacy and the loving care that is there. It's also there in the reading that we had from Ezekiel chapter 34. That God's intimacy with his sheep and the care he has for them is modelled on verse 15, the perfect relationship that Jesus has with his Father. Just allow that for a moment to blow your mind, if you can. That the God of the cosmos, the Trinity, Spirit, Father, Son, who had this perfect unity of purpose, of intention, God in 3 persons, not 3 different gods, this perfect relationship of love and trust. Jesus says this is the relationship that the Good Shepherd has with his sheep. My goodness me, isn't that a contrast to the Pharisees who say you're not good enough, that you do this wrong and you do that wrong and you do the other wrong? Isn't it astonishing that this is the extent and way in which God loves us? And it's because of that he answers the question of the Pharisees. How will this be? How can you do this? I lay down my life for my sheep. I will die. Not because he was attacked in the garden by a bunch of temple soldiers who came to arrest him. Not because he was taken by surprise by a kiss from Judah in that garden. Not because he was overcome by Roman soldiers and Roman governors and people who were stronger than he. It was what God was planning. What has been planned since before the foundation of the world. Look at verse 18. No one takes it from me. He's not a victim. It's not as a result of circumstances. It's not a plan B suddenly. Oh, what am I going to do now? That God's people and that all of creation is choosing not to listen to me. We need to come up with another idea of what to do. And Jesus says, well, I can't speak to them, I'll make it. No, it's not like that. lay down and take up his life again. In verse 17, with the certainty of the loving relationship, bonds of unity and love that cannot be broken. That's what Jesus is going to do. Now, it's worth just taking a moment here to consider something. There's an English theologian and writer, Chaplain, Brian McLaren. I've got some of his books. I've read some. He's got some really, really interesting things to say about culture. But he was the one who first termed the phrase cosmic child abuse. And possibly picking up from chapter 6, verse 38, "For I have come down from heaven not to do my will," this is Jesus' words, "but to do the will of him who sent me." Now, the difficulty is I think Brian has got this totally wrong, because he does not understand the complexity of the Greek and the ideas it is trying to convey. There aren't two plans here. The Father has one plan and the Son has another, and there's a kind of a clash and a war of words, and who will think about one and who will think about the other. And then actually, Jesus has to do that, but he didn't really want to because he had a better idea. He's not going against his own will. What he's trying to say is there are no two opinions. There are no two wills. There are no two wishes. That Jesus and the Father are one in intention, idea, and purpose. And so he's saying that there is no other way. Put it another way. Imagine them talking in a room, the Trinity. If you like, you can say that they were seated at the restaurant at the end of time, about the end of the universe, and that's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And they're having a conversation. These people will wonder. They will turn away. The creation that we want to bring about is going to lead to death. Because they will choose death rather than life. Have you ever wondered, what's the cost of your free will? Have you ever wondered why God allows us to choose? Why God enables us to have our own way? To make decisions that are good, to make decisions that are bad. To allow people to terrorise others, to go to war. Because of course that's all just an expression of free will, isn't it? Of course, we could just be like angels and never ever ever do anything that goes against God, because we can't, because we're just enthralled by it. But actually we have the choice. And God, Trinity, Spirit, Father, Son, beyond the remit of time, as they looked at the creation that they were going to bring about, and the way in which they would go their own way, discussed. They'll need to be brought back. The cost is too high, one said. Another said, I will do it. It was the will of the Trinity, of all of them. And don't let us think that it was the youngest or the weakest. No, it was the one, and this is how John describes Jesus, the eternal Word, the one by whom and for whom all creation is created. The cosmos and everything in it. This eternal, divine being outside of time said, let me be the one who goes to rescue. Because no cost is too high. Yes, the angels see the glory and the majesty and the wonder of God, and they stand in his presence. actually they do not know grace. Grace, the gift of love and mercy to the undeserving. We do. Ever thought of that? And this is why the Good Shepherd had to die. He says, you have free will. Look where it will take you. It will take you away. It will not lead you in the right place. Jesus said, I will go. I will call them. I will bring them back. And he does this. Verse 18. Why? Because of verse 17. He laid down his life and picked it up because the Trinity have wished this, and because the Father's unbroken love will be with Jesus, divine, eternal, and obedient to that shared vision. Jesus is no victim. He wants to show us the nature of grace and mercy. Isn't it good that he does? You see, this is what the Pharisees just didn't get. Religion was for good people. It was for doing good things. And Jesus says, no, let me teach you about mercy and grace. And that shepherd that's talked about in Ezekiel, this king of David, this prince of David, who is divine, is going to come and not just care for you, not just stand there at the gate so that they are the gates saving us from death and destruction. So actually, the only way I can do this is through my death. It's not done as an example of love. It's done to accomplish something. And that's the language of verse 18. It's the language of accomplishment. That Jesus has done something which has changed the cosmos when he rose again from death to life. And as Paul writes in Philippians, has taken again his rightful place in heaven, where every knee shall bow and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, who has so identified with his creation that we're told that actually how will he be in the new eternity? He will be the Lamb of God, the Lamb that was slain. Like he appears to Thomas, with the wounds visible. He has so taken on and identified this role. It's why we remember him with broken bread and wine shared. This is what they didn't get. And he said, let me teach you about grace. This whole build-up, chapter 8, chapter 9, chapter 10. Let me show you about grace. And then chapter 11, how can we know we trust you? Sorry, whoever's doing next week, that's me again. But chapter 11, as Lazarus walks out of the grave at Jesus' words, can there be any doubt? Really? Some things for you to think about as you go away from today. Does the enormity of what Jesus, eternal, divine, the God of grace and mercy, does that truly sink in to you in your inner being? Do you thank him enough for what he's done for you? And maybe if you don't know him, then invite him in. He would long to be with you. The second thing is just to think about our own free will. We're free to choose, aren't we? And that runs through us so strongly, the right to choose, the right to live in a democracy, the right to decide whether we go to school and how, and all these kinds of things. We like the right to choose. It's embedded into our democracy. It's embedded into our identity. But you notice in verse 17 that the Father loves the Son because the Son is obedient to the Father. It's not a approving love. It's not because, therefore. It's a kind of a symbiotic relationship. They exist as co-equal partners. If you're in chemistry, you talk about double bonding and things like that. But actually, if we love God as we should, is that marked by obedience? And it's good to think, isn't it? Do we have the right balance, individually or as a church, in freedom of choice and divine obedience? Good to think about that. And finally, the depth of intimacy and care that is there in verses 11 to 14 is in Psalm 43. What does it look like for you today to lie down in green pastures and beside still waters? We live in a complex world with real challenges and real difficulties and real hurdles to overcome. And yet God doesn't want us to continue as if there is no refreshment, no resources available to us. I'm not making light of the challenges we face. Yet in the midst of those challenges, are we living differently? Because it's very well believing this, or knowing this, but actually, when all hell lets loose in our lives, in our families, in the world about us, do we know that place of intimacy with God, where we can trust Him, feed ourselves on Him, and be fed by Him? Let me pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for Jesus, the Good Shepherd, who laid down his life and took it up again, that we might know grace and mercy. Lord, we so need your grace and mercy in our world and in our lives. Heavenly Father, help us to live the truth of that, the truth of your care. Help us to trust you, to lay down our burdens at your feet, to walk humbly and obediently with you. Father, there is so much that we think we can do, so many choices we think we can make. Yet, Father, teach us true obedience. Teach us truly